Hello! In this video I would like to show you what to me is the essence of José Raúl Capablanca's style. I will start with a short introduction why Capablanca is so important to me. The reason for this is that I credit my first qualitative jump in my play after a 3-month study of his games. What I did basically was collect all the books I had on Capablanca written by him and written about him, and for 3 months I only studied his games. No computers, just the chessboard, the books, and my mind, my brain. What I tried to do was to go over his games and try to understand, try to develop a feeling, this is important, about his play. And well, I think I managed, and I also think that I managed to grasp the essence of his play. As a direct result of this, after these 3 months of intense study, the first tournament I went to play was a pretty strong open tournament in Malaga in Spain, which I won, and I also scored my second Grandmaster norm there. The best way to show you this is obviously by showing you an example from his games. I chose a relatively famous game, which is the last game of his match with Frank Marshall. A famous game because it kind of cemented his legacy of a chess machine. So before embarking and showing you the moves, I would like to define this essence of Capablanca's style. I found that he played with utmost precision. But what does utmost precision mean? To my mind, and in my definition, this utmost precision means immediate reaction to the opponent's moves. Now, obviously all strong players play with utmost precision, and after studying other players, strong players' games, I discovered that they also play with this utmost immediate reaction to the opponent's moves. It just happened that I found it much easier to grasp this by studying Capablanca's games. So, without further ado, I will show you what I mean by this, and hopefully by the end of this video you will also get this understanding and feeling for Capablanca's play, which hopefully will help you in your games and also in the study of other players' games. So the position we have in front of us is a pretty, let's say, simple one, because light pieces have been exchanged, both sides are well developed, no weaknesses, everything seems to be normal. The characteristic feature of the position is that black has this queenside majority that he can advance, but white's central or kingside majority is not to be underestimated. He can also start pushing e4, f4, and so on. I won't comment too much on Marshall's moves. I will just note that he could have played better at certain points, because I don't want to distract you from Capablanca's moves. So I will concentrate my explanations on Capablanca's moves, because okay, when you play a game you don't mind so much about your opponent's moves. They are what they are, and you have to react to them. So you get a move, good or bad, and you have to react to it. So you have to find your own good move. So this is what I will try to do in this video. I will just comment at times when Marshall could have played better, but I won't delve too much into the details. So black's last move was short castle, and here is the first moment where Marshall basically could have forced a draw by taking on b7, but in the line later on he had to find one precise move to hold the position together. He didn't play that. He played rook fc1. In a way you could say it's a bit unnatural move, but on the other hand the rook needs to stay on a2 to guard the pawn on a2. And Marshall is anticipating black's advance on the queen side, so he puts the rook on the c file. So Capablanca plays rook ab, 8. Now already there was a threat of taking on b7, because after the exchange of queens, rook b8, and when the bishop escapes from b7, black takes the pawn on b2, white will take the pawn on c5. So there is this concrete threat now of taking on b7, so Capablanca immediately reacts to it by playing rook a b8. It removes the rook from the long diagonal, defends the pawn, and prepares further b5. Let's see a multi-purpose move. Now Marshall played the move queen e4. Now we enter the good territory. First and foremost, you need to understand what white wants with this move, queen e4. Once you understand that, then you understand Capablanca's next move. So Capablanca's next move was queen c7. And again, this is a move that it's an immediate reaction to white's last move. Why? Well, because white's last move, queen e4, pinned the bishop, and white threatened the move bishop h3 to exchange bishops and possibly create a weakness on e6 after exchanges there. So Capablanca notices the threat, bishop h3, and immediately reacts to it by removing the queen from the pin, queen c7. So this is the whole, let's say, algorithm how Capablanca was basically making his moves. And you will see this practically, I think, in all the moves of this game. Hopefully this inspires you to study Capablanca's other games, and you will notice this being omnipresent. So queen c7. Notice that Capablanca is not worried about putting the queen on the same file as the rook, because he doesn't see a reason not to. So he's not afraid of these artificial, let's say, dogmatic rules of don't put the queen on the same file as the rook, because it may get in some danger or whatever, because he doesn't see a concrete threat. He doesn't see a concrete way how that can be exploited. So b4 is never really a threat because c4 happens, so no problem by putting the queen on c7. So rook c3 by Marshall. He just wants to double on the c file perhaps to stop the advance. And now b5. Again, you could say perhaps it's not an immediate reaction to white's last move, but it's following the plan, which is the advance of the queenside majority. And now Marshall played a move which looks normal, natural, but it's wrong. He played the move a3. And if you look at it from the, let's say, formal strategic guidelines, it's a good move, because look, all the pawns are on dark squares and he has a light squared bishop, so it's not limiting the movement of white's light squared bishop. But this is wrong because it doesn't really stop black's queenside advance. He should have played the move b3 to fight against black's intended advance c4. But maybe Marshall wasn't expecting c4, because as we said, after a3, Capablanca actually did play c4. This is against the, let's say, dogmatic established rule of not putting your pawns on the same color square as the bishop, and Capablanca is doing exactly that. He's putting the pawns on light squares, and we will see later on he will put another pawn on a light square. But what do we see here? We see here an exception to this rule. Why? Because the bishop on e6 is not really bothered by these pawns on c4. In fact, the bishop is defending that pawn on c4, and this allows black to go a5 and b4 without worrying that the pawn on c4 will be targeted, because it's safely defended by the bishop on e6. So c4, again, immediate reaction to the opponent's moves. a3, okay, not stopping c4, exploit it, push c4. Okay, he had to, let's say, overcome this dogmatic thinking, but I don't think he was thinking in those terms at all. Now Marshall plays bishop f3. Again, it's a moment where we get Capablanca's algorithm clearly shown. Can you see what white wants with this move bishop f3? If you can, then you can also understand Capablanca's next move. Capablanca's next move appears like as the most natural move in the position. He plays rook fd8. And for example, if you just look at this game quickly without paying attention to the moves, you wouldn't even notice this move. Okay, yeah, you could say, yeah, but of course, what's more natural? The rook is taking over the open d file. Yeah, what's more natural? But it's much more than that in this position. Why? Because with the move bishop f3, white created the threat of bishop g4 to exchange this very strong bishop that cements black's position. So the threat being bishop g4, Capablanca plays rook f d8, and now the intention is, if bishop g4, thanks to this rook being on the d file controlling the d5 square, there is the move bishop d5 avoiding the exchange. So you see, this is the let's say the strength of the moves of strong players. They seemingly make natural moves, but there is always something behind these natural moves that is very concrete. And this is a perfect example of that. A natural move, perfectly natural move that you would not notice, but there is something very concrete reason behind the natural move. It's never a natural move just because of it's natural. There is always something concrete. And this concreteness, this precision is the essence of every strong player's play. Of course, they have different styles. They execute this precision differently, but it's always there. So, rook f d8, and now Marshall opposes the open file with rook d1. And now Capablanca doesn't see a reason not to exchange, because after the exchange on d1, he takes over the control over the d file by putting the other rook on d8. Bishop f3, escaping the attack. And now another very precise move, and again one in the guise of a natural one. Capablanca plays the move g6. And you could say again, okay, but of course it's natural, yeah, opening a luft for the king. You may have some doubts because look, all pawns on light squares, light squared bishop, yeah. So you could say, okay, this guy doesn't understand strategy at all, putting all the pawns on the same color as the bishop. But again, there is a concrete justification behind this move. Now Marshall played the move queen c6, seeking exchange of queens. But let's see black's idea. If white played something like h4, for example, to push h5, it's just a move to demonstrate black's idea. Wasn't just only a natural move g6. It was a move that contained a threat. And that threat, to show it, we'll take the move h4 as an example, is the following one. Bishop d5, attacking the queen. Yeah, queen g4. Yeah, and now h5. This was the idea behind the move g6. So that h5 is possible. Now the queen cannot remain in contact with the bishop defending it, except for the f4 square. But after queen f4, exchange on f4, exchange on f3, check on d1, and rook b1, black wins the pawn with a winning endgame. So you see the natural move g6, in fact, contained a threat. And this threat was this, shown in this line, the point being that the move g6 allowed for the move h5, forcing exchanges to a winning rook endgame. So going back, g6, Marshall played queen c6. And now another moment where Capablanca shows this utmost precision. There was nothing wrong in this position to just exchange queens. Okay, take on c6, the pawn on b5 is hanging, and go a6. Still winning for black. Yeah? Controlling the open d file, rook d2 is a threat, and so on. But Capablanca wants more. He wants to be even more precise than this. So after queen c6, he plays the move queen e5, defending the pawn, yeah? And threatening rook d2. White is practically paralyzed. He seeks an exchange of queens again, queen e4. But now you see the precision in Capablanca's play. Now he can exchange queens and not spend time on a6, but instead of wasting time on a6, he can already penetrate with the rook in white's position. This is the utmost precision I was talking about. After bishop e4, white also threatens actually to go bishop c2 to cover the d1 square. So Capablanca would not allow it. He gives a check, penetrating in white's position, and after king g2, a5, finally moving the queenside majority. And by this point, the hard work is already done. From now on, it's just smooth sailing, advancing the majority with b4, and finding the final conversion moves, yeah, not very complicated, to win material. So you see, we started looking at this position move 15, now it's move 27, that's like 12 moves, and you could see in 12 moves how Capablanca's superior quality of his moves prevailed against one of the leading players in the world at that time. So in 12 moves he outplayed a leading chess player from an equal position. Hopefully I managed to explain the reasoning, the rationale behind his moves. So let's see the conclusion of the game. Rook c2, played by Marshall, defending the second rank and escaping the attack after b4. Capablanca continues, b4, exchange on b4, bishop f3, attacking the rook, rook b1, targeting that pawn on b2, yeah, bishop e2, attacking the pawn on c4, and now Capablanca plays another good move, which is the move b3, all pawns on light squares, yeah, just a curiosity. And here it's a kind of a small combination, okay, pretty simple line that he had to see, and that is that in case of rook c3, maintaining the attack on the pawn on c4, the pawn will be lost, but after rook takes b2, bishop takes c4, rook c2 is the key move, and black wins a piece. So these are the, let's say, small, short, simple lines that players have to calculate to justify their moves in the conversion phase. So b3, rook goes to d2, and now rook c1, threatening rook c2, bishop d1 prevents it. So again, you see, you can even push this to the extreme, yeah, immediate reaction to opponent's moves, yeah. The rook left the c file, rook d2, and Capablanca immediately takes advantage of it, takes over the c file and threatens rook c2. You see, even in the final phase, yeah. Bishop d1 prevents rook c2, but after c3, b3, b2, the threat is to promote, and after rook b2, rook d1, black won a piece with an elementary winning endgame. White could have just resigned here, but the problem was that this was the last game of the match, and a win for Capablanca meant the end of the match. The match was played until 8 wins, and by this point it was 7-1 in Capablanca's favor, and winning this game would have meant the 8th final win and the end of the match, so Marshall dragged it on. So rook c2, bishop f5, immediately attacking the rook. Rook moves back, rook c1, immediately attacking the pawn. Rook b3, now the rook is very passive, has to stay defending the pawn on c3, check on e4, king h3, rook c2, immediately attacking the pawn on f2, f4, h5, threatening bishop f5, rook h2, g4, hg4, king g4, rook h2. Okay, one pawn was won. Okay, now it's only one pawn for the piece. Again, this is just elementary stuff. Rook b4, f5 check, king g3. Unfortunately, well, going forward, this won't lead to, much, because there is no check on b7, and there is the mating threat of rook g2 or rook h5. So rook king g3, rook e2. Now this pawn is lost on e3. Rook c4 check, king h5, king g7 check, king f6. There is no check on the 6th rank, and after rook d7, bishop g2, there is the inevitable mate coming, check, king g7, and mate is coming, rook h3, rook h5. So Marshall finally resigned. An impressive game, and I can assure you that a lot of Capablanca's games are impressive in this manner. You can perhaps see in this game why he was called a chess machine, why so many generations of players have modeled their games according to Capablanca. There's this clarity in his play. The moves are, you could see, relatively easily understood. And what I find it most amusing is that when you see Capablanca's games, at least when I was looking at Capablanca's games, you get this impression that this is not that difficult. I can play like this, you know? It gives you this impression that chess is actually easy to play, and it's easy to play like him. But hopefully you also saw this in this game, that there are some layers behind the simplicity of his moves. So I will conclude this video. Hope you enjoyed going over this game by Capablanca. Hopefully I managed to explain the rationale and the reasoning behind his moves. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, subscribe, share it, tell your friends about it, and watch it again if you want. And I will see you. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.